Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Tech Shift F9 podcast. I'm your host, Maurizio, and this is the podcast that talks about careers, career pivots, career transformations in the age of technology. Today, I'm super excited about having Julie Ying Baron on the podcast. Julie is the CEO of a really interesting company, Viaspace, and she's started from a career in commodities trading back a few years back, let's put it that way. She experienced that world in different jurisdictions. She went to set up her own company in commodities trading. And then the last few years, she actually pivoted into space mining. Now, that sounds super cool. Julie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me.
Julie, your profile is super interesting. Your career is taking you from, as you say in your profile, a remote town near Siberia to commodities hubs around the world. When you were a little girl, did you expect to have this sort of life? And when did you become aware that you could have a career that went beyond maybe the rural setting that you were in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had no idea how I could work plan out. Yeah, I was born 80s, and at that time, China was going through a lot of bad economy and a lot of its own shifting. So I think I only realized that when I had the opportunity to study abroad. That's where I realized that my life might be different, might not be same as my parents. When I was younger and look at because I grew up with my grandmom, and because in China we had a one child policy, so
Oh,
I
right.
didn't have a chance to grow up with my parents. Um, so each generation's life are very, very different, particularly in the historical background of China. So I realized I might getting different opportunity, even I think I left China like 25 years ago. At that time, people leaving China and go abroad is not as common as now. And my entire family just know that I haven't lived outside. So to answer your question, I only realized it later.
It's not that you just left China. I mean, you left China, you went to Switzerland, Hong Kong, Dubai, Singapore. I mean, so many places. Was there something that you could summarize that you've learned from working in such different cultural and business environments?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a very interesting question because when you think of all these places from where I grew up, like I was going in northern China, I grew up in Shanghai. Obviously, culturally, it's massive difference, even like political landscape. Um, but I think, I think, I think not only that these countries culture different, but even um, I can imagine that I have never worked in the banking industry, but I deal with a lot of banks. I deal a lot with the banks. I even feel like industry from industry, the culture is so different.
Right.
And I think maybe because of my background, we used to something like drafting shifting because China is known for multiple policy and one day to another, things could change. So I think I probably more like observant. So I will observe what's happening. And I think as a female, we're very, very good at also adapting to it.
Right.
But I'm quite pleased that probably with my personality will have a hard time to progress in a banking more structured setting because in commodity trading at the end of the day it's all about numbers. So so in that sense, it worked out all well.
Absolutely. But what surprises me is that in your early stages of your career, as you said, you didn't go into a very structured setting. I mean, you basically started building trading desks from scratch, and then you eventually set up even your own commodities trading house. And I mean, how did you do it, frankly? I mean, you didn't have a lot of experience at that time. Obviously, you got it on the job, but were there any uh, things that really worked for you in terms of your approach to being an entrepreneur at such a young age?
That's a very interesting question.
Thank you.
Because to be very, very frankly, that it was not something like I think other Chinese we born with the very, very entrepreneur spirit.
Right.
Because we like to get things done. We always find a practical solution. But it's not like I plan to be my own boss. You know, some people like in very young age, they just know they want to have their own company. I wouldn't say that's necessary is in my head. I I I when I started in commodity, I was working in the back office, right? I started, operation, looking at the logistics, far less glamorous, right? But I soon realized my personality, I just not really I just don't really like admin so much. Obviously, it is very, very important to be a physical trader. You understand the logistic parts, you understand how to calculate freight, P&L, and all these. But I made a very, very hard push to become a trader. And at that time, I worked in big corporate like Glencore, and to progress from back office to a trader is not easy.
I know.
That's also how eventually I left the company and um, to join Noble and a couple companies in Asia, because I feel with my skill, if I stay in Switzerland, in Glencore, my if I want to be a trader, I need to get deals done, and my advantage is being Asia. So I find a way to get myself um, back here and on the ground. And when I able to close the deal, when you're able to have the clients who really recognize you, and that's where you make one step at a time. And all of a sudden, you realize, wow, within the big company, there's always, unavoidable. There's always a lot of political dynamic, and just one thing lead to another. Then I set up my own company, but I wouldn't say I set up a startup, because at that time I already know the business inside out, and I already have a client who followed me. So in that sense, it's easier. But there's a lot of story about how I set up a company. So, I leave that to I leave that for now, and we can discuss that later. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a whole topic that I think I'd love to explore in more detail at some point. But I gotta ask, I mean, you were doing very well in commodities trading with your own company. I suppose you felt somewhat comfortable in that space. And then talking of space, now you are looking at something a little bit exceptional. Can you walk us through what went through your head and how you prepared yourself for such a change?
Thank you. So what happened is I have been doing commodity trading for more than 2 decades. And why it gave me a lot of excitement and fulfillment. And I also follow the commodity boom, the trend. You see how the commodity market impact the world. But I do recognize, because I born in the period of one-child policy, and the reason China had a one-child policy is because the government was afraid that we don't have enough resource to feed everyone. And so very, very early stage, I realized the resource and commodity is something like, so important, it could impact everyone's life. And through the commodity, while it gave me a lot of job satisfaction, maybe also give me financial independence, but I do realize that the dark side of commodity, because you see the pollution it is caused, and you see that even nowadays you still send people underground, and also the mineral grade is deteriorating, and all these basic is just unsustainable. So after 2 decades of commodity trading, I was just thinking that, so what I can use my skill for something probably give me more sense of purpose. And I just by coincidence, I bumped into the space mining companies, and that's how the dialogue all started.
That's amazing. So you had something in the back of your mind, but once you found the right people or the right situation around you, you got some sort of inspiration to go off and look into space mining, space exploration. Um, and I guess the next question to that, and we'll change topic, but this is fascinating. Uh, Although some elements of what you're doing now, I'm sure, are very similar to what you were doing before, there must be many other different elements. And you've been 2 decades in a business. We, as I think a little bit older than you, we get stuck in our ways a little bit. We think we know everything. We've been around the block. How
Yeah,
did you shift a little bit your mindset when entering an industry that is fast-paced, different? And what kind of impact did that have on you as a person in terms of how you saw yourself?
Yes. Funny though, space has evolved a lot, but compared to commodity trading, I would say it's a bit slow paced.
Okay.
Because we are dealing with the technology, and the technology also need a lot of investment, and it's sometimes heavily rely on government grants. So it's not probably developed as much as fast as I would like to see. But on the other hand, to answer your question, maybe just because I so used to the trading culture where I often need to, and as a trader, most important, and I as a physical trader, right, means that I'm not just buy and sell on the screen, but I need to get a resource out of the ground, And the most important quality is origination. It's not like I'm buying another, 1,000 ton of more copper from Australia. That market is totally well developed. And as a trader, there's not much you can add because the essence of a trader is to mitigate the risk. So we always need to go to the new market. And that excites me. So in that sense that I look at space is a new field and not much different, but like I originate that field from that knowing how what's going on, get to know the people. So maybe that is in my blood. So I didn't feel that much a shift. Yes, the content shift, but with that mentality, I think it was not as difficult.
That's great. And in terms of, you mentioned earlier on in our conversation that you were in trading as a woman. There might have been some more challenges, perhaps. And I know that you're doing some advocacy for women in entrepreneurship. And my question for you is, can you share some ideas or strategies for how we can empower women in male-dominated industries based on your personal journey?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think when I was younger, when I go to meeting, then you see all the male and maybe yes, not maybe. I know for sure at that time I felt intimidated. But I think that the key thing as a female to work in a male-dominant industry that we are not competing with them. We actually bring very, very different quality. And I know for sure that many instances, for example, when we deal with a counterparty, yeah, yes, my male colleague can go out with them, entertain them, and all these drink with them, and that might not be my forte. But I feel that when me as a female and have a pair of ears to listen, and often my counterparty can also put their guards down and more willing to share. And I think I just got a lot more out meetings and got a lot more important information. And also, I think particularly in the industry where people need to lead faith that, the counterpart able to execute. So I think a female also bring unique quality because we are very, very grounded, right?
Hmm.
So we probably sometimes even undersell ourselves. So when counterparty feel like, oh, they can trust you, they know you can perform, that's where they put actually more stiffness with you. So I think with any business, male or female dominant, it's most important to understand our unique quality. And we're not competing, we are complementary to our male colleagues.
I've had similar experiences when I was working in banks. I worked in banks for 20 years. And in my experience on trading floors too, whenever you added a good mix of team in a team, male, female, different ages, different backgrounds, that's where you really got some good leverage, good mileage out of people because all of a sudden the element of competition is a little bit on the side. There's more about collaboration. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that brings another question to me, particularly given your very international experience. And I know you're traveling everywhere now with via space, you're engaged all over the globe and beyond with the business. it's the crucial element is really getting the right people on board. So over
Mhm.
your work experience and professional life, how did you learn how to hire the right people, how to bring on board the right people? I mean, there are books, thousands of books written about how to hire people and how to, improve them. But what
No.
really worked for you? I'm interested to find out.
Mm, yeah. Um, with all my hires, I found the most important quality is able to solving issues. Um, because particularly when we out there concluding business, there is always things are very, very unpredictable, right? And I always looking for people using common sense and the very, very resourceful. Not just come back to me and present a problem, but actually present problem, but also say, well, I propose resolving this and this because so and so. And what do you think? And I think that is really also train them at one point when they step up because at the end of the day, if you look at what is the CEO's job, right? Even in essence, they are solving the issue that, come to their table. Maybe the issue is more important than others, but that's the essence of the job. And they're able to not just based on the book, but also very, very street smart. They're able to be very, very resourceful. So that's a key quality I'm looking at.
I completely agree, Julie. And not only in terms of hiring, but now you've hired the people, you're going to make them work well together. And
Okay.
in your career, when you're in a commodities trading desk, even in the back office or front office, you're dealing with very similar people. Well, once you run your business, and particularly in an area that is a little bit new, like space mining, you need to put together, it's like chemistry, right? You need to put together people from different
Mhm.
backgrounds doing different things, whether it's marketing, whether it's HR, it's sales, uh, engineering, all sorts of things. What's the secret sauce? How do you make all these diverse background people that talk differently, that think differently, to work well together?
I think at the end of the day, when I work with a team, um, I think it is really important we understand that is a common goal and everybody buy into it. And also, it is very important people can articulate what their capability can do in this particular part, and then they take the full ownership. Um, and I think, particular with the space and with what I would like to do, which is space DAO, a decentralized autonomy organization. I think it is also create a very cool experience, even for the people who be part of the DAO. And and that is not just for the people who participate, but also for my own team, that we can create a very, very cool experience, which means, we all buy into this goal and we identify a process that as fun as possible and carve out the area that he or she is really good at, and then we go for it.
Sounds great. Julie, I want to ask you a couple of things that may be a little bit more personal. Take it
Like that.
with, at face value. I know that you co-founded a Singapore-based charity called Recycling Art Charity. That shows you're committed to important things like environmental sustainability, artistic expression. But how do you balance your professional pursuits with your personal values and your philanthropic efforts?
I think at this stage of my life, it's become a lot easier
Okay.
because obviously I don't. I I I think for a younger professional, sometimes it is harder to balance the course they want, what they love, and how they get themselves financially independent. But I do feel the world has changed because if I look at 20 years ago, right, my core focus was how I can be financially independent. How can I not rely on anybody else, right? And that's with my core focus. But if you look at how the world has changed, right? I mean, one very very good example. Just look at the Bitcoin, and Bitcoin started with a bunch of people that maybe don't have that much faith on the government dominate or controlled fiat currency. So they start this group. And then it becomes where it is now that mainstream recognizes is asset class. But this long way means what? I mean, maybe I don't understand the Bitcoin and crypto 100%, but what I think it means is now people are willing to work and commit and put money into what they believe. So I think the whole society has moved on, because before the shareholder might more care about the ROI and how much money we make, but now the shareholders also need to care, does it has a social value? Because if it's not do good socially, it will impact share price, it will impact if the banking give the banking line and or not. So I think in this moment, maybe for younger professionals, it is easier to marry what they want to do because there's a lot more possibility. But also, I think what I want to say to younger professionals is also don't need to get too stressed, because even what you want maybe is not something easier to make money. But work is only 8 hours. After work, there is a lot of things for you to focus on what you love to do. And sometimes work is also serve a particular purpose. If one can marry together where I am now, that I can put my commitment and effort on something I really passionate about, that's great. But then it takes, some years to get where I am. So what I'm saying is everything has its own time. So either or.
It's very important to be patient. I can see that. I mean, work hard. I completely agree. But everything is works at a certain pace. But Julie, if I can press on a similar point, talking about the social issues and the importance of not only running a business, but also caring about all these other activities that you do. I mean, and you talked about stress. How do you cope with the stress? What are some of the techniques that you have to de-stress yourself and keep yourself on top of things?
That's a really good question too. I think actually as the female profession, we tend to, as a female, we tend to be more easy to get stressed than most of my male colleagues. I mean, that's just how my experience and how I talk to my female peer, because we take the responsibility very, very personally, and sometimes we can worry a bit too much, and I think for me that come two folders. One, and I'm not doing anything different from others. I do a lot of sport. I think sport just gave me so many happy hormones. And, even sometimes I don't feel like it, but after gym or after a sport, I always feel things had already solved, half at least.
Right.
I always walk away with a lot of positivity. And I think meditation, because sometimes we are very, very reactive to how the world is. We just very, very quickly react to it. But if we can sometimes just even step back and think of that why and what is this all about and why we on this journey, then sometimes we are not so easy to be triggered or stressed. And the last thing is the mindset. As I said, as a female, at least how I felt that as a female entrepreneur, sometimes I feel even more stressed because I worry a whole list of things. And then I also learn from my male colleagues. Sometimes they just tell me, why worry about it? And I mean, until it becomes a problem, then don't worry about it. So,
Fair enough.
they have a point as well. Yeah.
They do have a point as well. Julie, last question for you, if you don't mind. Looking ahead, in terms of your professional career, what are some of the things that excite you the most that you see coming, and what are some of the goals you've set for yourself?
So right now I'm in the space exploration, and particularly with a focus on space mining. So what excites me most is I would like to do my own work to make the space really accessible for all. I know this is a very noble cause, but at least the people around me, when they hear what I do, they all get very, very excited. But I do realize you get excited is one thing, interest is another thing, but to get them really committed, there needs to be an economic interest. And that's how I learned from the Bitcoin and the law of tokenization. So I would love at one point to have a space focused DAO where people not only just interested and fascinated, but can also commit it and also participate in these revolutionary game. So that's what I said for myself.
That's wonderful, Julie. Thank you so much for being on the show, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Maurizio.
Well, folks, that's the end of another episode. Thank you for listening. Stay cool, stay positive,